Good day traders, this is Stefanos on behalf of Tixee, and in today's video we'll be giving a look back of the market for the week of the 21st until the 25th of February. As always, before we get started, please note that all of the ideas discussed in this webinar are my own opinions and do not make up for any form of investment or trading advice, neither any recommendations to buy or sell. You should always do your own research and due diligence before buying or selling any securities, financial products, or instruments, and whether you use any kind of trading strategies. Any information that relates to past performance is not indicative of future results. Now, for all of you tuning in for the very first time, with regards to stocks, we currently have the Q4 of last year's earnings season still in full swing. It is essentially the period where the major corporations come in and announce the results of the most recent financial reports. As we mentioned in last week's outlook, for this week we had Alibaba, Moderna, and Beyond Meat reporting their numbers. Obviously they weren't the only ones, but some of the major ones we're looking out for this week. Now obviously I'm pretty sure you're all aware of the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia, so the stocks were not obviously the main headline for this week, but nevertheless, the financial markets are still open regardless, and we still have those reports from the earnings reports coming out from the major corporations, which we'll be looking into today, and we'll just be later touching upon the conflict between Ukraine and Russia and its impacts on the rest of the markets as well. So firstly, we're going to be looking at Moderna, for which I'm just going to pull up the chart as well and keep it on the daily time frame for now. Moderna reported their figures before the market opened on Thursday the 24th. They beat both of its revenues as well as EPS expectations by 6% and 13% respectively. The Moderna CEO also said in a statement on Thursday that the company expects to sell at least $19 billion worth of its COVID-19 vaccine in the year of 2022, which also came in above the original expectation of analysts, which was at $17 billion worth of sales instead. Now we can see here from the chart as well, I'll just switch it a little bit here. Following the reports with them, because they were obviously the numbers they were released before the market open, so we can see that with the market open, the shares of Moderna gapped up higher because the close on the previous day was all the way down here, and with the open, because obviously after the report came in there was still pre-market trading, so with the open we gapped up to this level here. Now overall the share prices gapped up by 13% overall on the day, which was more or less $20 per share. Now this also came in stark contrast to Pfizer's earnings report, which gapped down by almost 5% with the open following the earnings report. So you can see between the two competitors, these two companies were pretty active with regards to the vaccination program for COVID-19. For now, at least with the earnings report, it seems that Moderna is edging out Pfizer for the time being. Next up, we'll be looking at Alibaba. Alibaba, they also reported their numbers on Thursday, again during the pre-market hours. Now, while they did beat the earnings per share estimates, they did miss their revenue expectations by 1.5%, 1.51 to be exact. This was also their slowest quarterly revenue growth since 2014, which is also when they went public. Now, the reasons cited were drops in sales at its core business segment and also intensifying competition as well. We can see here that with the open on Thursday morning, which was again after the figures were released, prices got down by as much as 8.5% with the open. However, they did manage to bounce back slightly, but we can still see here that with the gap down, they were more or less neutral on the day. So even though they did recover for the day, after the gap down, you can see that it didn't make any significant returns on that day. On the following day, which was Friday, we can see it almost started continuing its decline before again swiftly recovering back up higher. So it could be that there is some buyers around these zones, around these lows here. If we scroll lower, we can see it's just broken below the low right here as well. So it could just be a retest of the broken structure zone here. Now lastly, the third stock we'll be looking at is Beyond Meat. Now, Beyond Meat, they were also the ones who reported their figures on Thursday. However, the difference being is that they reported it after the market close. So when this is the case, the impact is to be seen with the open the following day, so on Friday. Beyond Meat missed the EPS expectations by as much as 82%, which is a staggering figure, as well as reporting greater financial losses and slowing revenues in its fourth quarter. In addition to that, the company's executives mentioned that higher costs came from the company's choice to edge towards expensive co-manufacturing facilities rather than using their own manufacturing plants for productions. Now, its share price fell by more than 7% with the open on Friday. So again, this was the close on Thursday, and then with the open, we can see that we gapped down, and this little wick here, this was the drop that came in at about 7%, although just like Alibaba, they did manage to recover towards the end of the day and finishing the day in the green. So yeah, this is with regards to the major corporations for this week. Now we'll be looking into Forex, and I'll just pull up the chart in the meantime for the euro dollar. Now, with regards to Forex, with the start of the week on Monday, it was still uncertain as to what would happen between Ukraine and Russia, given the heightened tensions over the last few weeks. However, that turned into certainty as Putin declared a special military operation in Ukraine during the early morning hours of Tuesday. Morning hours, speaking of in the UK. Now, markets, they immediately reacted to this news with the usual narrative of seeing investors flock to safe haven currencies such as the Swiss franc and the Japanese yen. So if I switch to the Euro Swiss franc for the time being. So this is basically when the reports for the military operation in Ukraine came about. And we can see that 2 days following the declaration of the invasion, we can pretty much see how much more the Swiss franc strengthened as opposed to the euro. So the euro Swiss franc fell by as much as 1.43% or 148 pips, whereas the other major safe haven currency being the Japanese yen. If I switch to this one, the Japanese yen, we can see it had an even greater drop, falling by as much as 1.81% or 235 pips. Now, the ongoing conflict in Ukraine also meant that the possibility of an interest rate hike in the US in March dropped to below 20%. So if you remember a couple of weeks back, when we had the Fed's interest rate meeting, they mentioned that they were expecting to be potentially hiking the rates around March and then later during the summer as well. Well, now the possibility, given the ongoing conflict as well, which could affect markets globally, that possibility dropped to below 20%. Now, markets, they did recover slightly with the euro dollar. If I switch to the euro dollar on the weekly time frame, you'll be able to see that essentially they did recover slightly, and it's pretty much almost unchanged on the week. The same story was also with the pound dollar. So yeah, they did recover slightly. I mean, obviously it's a little bit worse with regards to the pound, since we also had some positive financial headlines coming out of Germany and the US. The US returned a positive GDP figure, which we can see here how it's impacting the pound dollar as it's edging out lower. However, the euro dollar, since the euro with Germany, they also had a pretty decent GDP report, we can see the impact of the US positive report is not as strong as it was with the pound. So yeah, was more or less the impact that we saw in the Forex market. However, again, this wasn't the only market affected by the ongoing tensions and the full-scale invasion. The next up, we're going to be looking at oil and gold. Firstly, we're going to look at oil. And as it was expected for both of them, they both surged with the news of the full-scale invasion in Ukraine. As we can see here, there was a pretty strong spike with regards to oil. This was actually the price, we're seeing the prices surging by as much as 10% on the week. Again, we're on the weekly time frame here. Prices briefly crossed above the $100 mark. I think the actual price was $100.65, but we did retrace back down and back below the 100 mark later during the week. If I look at gold, more or less a similar story. We had a pretty strong spike on gold as well. However, that was more or less 4% or $74 before also retracing back down later on during the week. Now, both of the commodities are expected to see increased volatility in the coming days or even weeks, judging by how much longer the conflict between the two countries may last. And furthermore, depending on any further news developments that come out of over the weekend, we can expect to see some stronger movements even with the open of the markets on Monday, because even though the markets, at least the traditional markets like commodities, equity markets, the FX market, are closed over the weekend, if we have any further developments, they can greatly impact the markets with the open on Monday. With gold, we can see that it firmly broke out of this range, which was retesting the high of the range between this level down here and this level up here. We broke out above it, but again, we came back down towards the end of the week, closing back below it again. So it'll be interesting to see whether it's gonna hold. Maybe seeing price accumulate before breaking out either to the upside, or maybe we could just see a retest of the downside again. Again, this depends up to how the conflicts on the geopolitical level are also gonna be playing out. So yeah, there you have it. This is as far as the look back and review for this week. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Don't forget, for next week we're still gonna be seeing some more companies reporting their numbers. Some of the major ones we'll be covering as well. With the outlook are gonna be Baidu, Salesforce.com, and Costco as well. So if those are stocks that you are looking to have under your radar, you may like staying tuned to the outlook video as well, because we'll be covering those companies there as well. So yeah, I hope you found the video useful, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, trade safe.